we exist, there's nobody there. Just like they're not in need of all of that suffering that might have some utility to us while we're alive, they also are not in need of any of the good stuff either.
So the argument here is that these people who aren't alive yet can't consent to the suffering that they're going to experience in their life, so therefore it's unethical to have children.
But they can consent to ending their suffering anytime they want, right?
True.
So how come they don't?
True.
So then so this goes back to the age-old question, right? You can't consent to existence, but yet you can. What's actually really interesting about this is that the argument is more against her than it is for her. So she says, look, you can't actually consent to being born into a world of suffering. So we have no right to force you into that world, right? That's the basic gist of the argument. But the evidence seems to run against you when it's the case that you were forced into the world and yet still prefer to be here, even though you can take yourself out of it anytime you want. It seems to be making the case that people prefer to be alive than not.
Definitely, yeah.
Positives, to have a good life. We're not, before we exist, we're not in need of any of that. And so to create a new being.
Well, so hang on, right here too. There's another thing here to watch for, which is that she's making some suppositions, right? Before we exist, there's no need for any of this and nobody's suffering. You don't know that. This is just supposed. We actually don't know that. It's possible that everybody who exists is in a void of hell and is being tortured by demons all the time until they finally get through a sluice gate, which then connects your soul with the most recently imbued sperm egg inside of some woman's body. And there you go, right? It could be that it's your great escape from hell and you don't want to go back there. And so that's why you do everything to stay alive on planet Earth. Like these are all just things which are supposed. There's no reason for us to operate off of a supposition that there's no suffering before you're born. There's no reason for us to suppose that other than she just wants us to take her word for it.
Sure. Yeah.
That potential sentient being at great risk, at risk of a poor quality of life. We do that without consent. Now, I know what you're going to say. It's impossible to get consent of a non-existent being, but that's part of the point. That's the nature of consent. If you can't get consent, then you don't take those risks. You don't impose that harm. I mean, there's been proto-anti-natalists.
What if it's the case, though? If I just could give an example of one person, let's say it was a mom who was into witchcraft. She said, I was playing with a Ouija board. And as I was playing with the Ouija board, my daughter communicated through the Ouija board, who didn't exist yet, that she was going to be born next month. Okay. And then that next month, or I was going to get pregnant with her this next month. And that next month I got pregnant with her. And I talked to my daughter years later when she was at the age of rationality. And she remembers this incident of her speaking through the void. That's all she remembers, but gave consent. Does that person then get to exist? No, she would say, wait a second, that's all a figment of your imagination. That never happened, right? There's no way that that's possible. These types of things, right? But there's actually no way. That's the same argument against her, though. There's no way for us to ascertain the possibility of consent either, right? There's no way for us to ascertain that people aren't actually consenting. For all we know, they're all consenting, and we just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, well, in a sense, they are. If they are alive, they are consenting, right?
If they're alive, they're consenting. That's the point.
Yeah, right.
Ideas for since ancient Roman thinking, the wisdom of Silenus, Theognis. I mean, so many different thinkers have kind of mentioned ideas like this. And one thing that has existed is, believe it or not, a lot of Christian anti-natalism. Like there were all these sort of Christian anti-natalist sects that were Gnostic, and they didn't believe in eating animals and they didn't believe in procreation. Now, a lot of that had to do with an aversion to sex.
Yes.
You
That's right. So contradicts her own thesis here. They were anti-natalists, but not really. They were actually just anti-sex. So there are all sorts of Christian sects. She's right. That had all sorts of bizarre sexual hangups, and utilized that for anti-natalist positions. She's absolutely right about that.
Because they're Christians, so there's a lot of aversion to sex.
Earlier you said that, humans have an urge to have sex, but not necessarily to procreate.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women probably have strong urge to have a child.
Well, I think a lot of women are culturally mandated to have that instinct. I mean, what do we, you know,
You
it's sort of
can't.
the
Okay, so
cliche.
you don't culturally mandate instinct.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
how
yeah.
that works. You know what I mean? You would be making cultural mandates against things which were instinctual. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So no, that would work in the opposite direction of what she's saying. There's a cultural mandate for you to have this instinct. It's like, well, then that wouldn't be an instinct, right? That's not an instinct
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, and it's like when the woman is ovulating, is that like a cultural mandate? You know, when the woman has her body preparing and she starts nesting, is that like a cultural mandate, or is that something that's biological, something that's an actual biological instinct?
Well, the entirety of the female body is designed, including to its own detriment, for procreation. It's designed for childbirth, including to its own detriment. It has trouble regulating hormones due to this. It has trouble with all sorts of different things that males don't have because we don't have the requisite parts necessary to carry children,
Mm.
right? To their own detriment, their body is designed specifically for this.
Right.
Example, but like, what do we give little girls? We give them baby dolls. You know, I could probably say most women in most cultures. You know, it's not a matter of when.
The problem with that
you're.
is that if you present a child, right, young child, with, do you want this little baby doll or do you want this male-looking toy? If they're females, they often go for the little baby doll. That's what's interesting, right? So that would be more instinct, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
If you're going to have a child, it's when. You know, you're sort of a female's worth.
By the
you
way,
know,
stop it right there.
Is in.
Can you see if this broad has children real quick? Can you Google it?
She definitely wouldn't, man. Yeah.
She might. What's her name?
What's her name?
I'm looking at it now. Her name is Amanda. There's only says Amanda.
Just put
Amanda.
like Amanda, the anti-natalist, and see what comes up. You'll probably get the full name from that.
It's the police are on their way to my home. Amanda Oldfan Sukanik. Yeah, that's her. Found her.
Yep. That's
her name's Sukanik? What?
Miss Chokes on.
Yeah. No, it's Sukenik. Sukanik.
It says she knew from an early age she didn't want to have children.
Yeah, she does not.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is she married?
Mate. Let's hope not.
It doesn't specify.
Doesn't specify. Is she?
I think that she'd be a rug. Yeah. I think she'd be drinking from the fairy cup, if I'm honest.
She's gonna be a little.
Drinking from the furry cup. Is that what you
She's
said?
going to be doing a little bit of the Emperor's cheese graters or whatever
Yeah.
that was.
All right. Shall we?
Yeah.
Emperor's chambermaid.
Her procreative future. I mean, you know,
Cheesemonger.
boys become men and girls become procreators, and that's not the way it should be or has to be by any stretch of the imagination.
Actually,
so I mean, is that
that not only is the way that it should be, but it's also the way it has to be.
Mm.
It actually has to be that way, and it will always be that way because men can't have children; only women can. It's that simple. Since
Right.
only women can do it, they're the only ones who will be able to do it, and so society will always organize itself around the fact that men can't have children. It's that simple.
Mm.
that really something that women have this incredible desire to do, or is it something that's mandated on most women to
No,
have a
there's
desire
definitely
to
a
do?
desire
Their
to do
culture.
it.
Yeah, by our culture, exactly. and I think there's a lot that still needs to be developed. I mean, sort of, there's very few feminists in antinatalism at this point. There's some feminist philosophers that are anti-natalist, like Patricia McCormack, but other
I
feminist
would
philosophers.
argue that they're all anti-natalists. And that's what abortion and women's reproductive health is all about, is forms of anti-natalism. So I would argue with her on this point that if she only is defining anti-natal, that's why semantics are so important, right? But she's only defining anti-natalism as her form of anti-natalism, but it's a much broader spectrum than that.
Yeah, she's only looking at it through the paradigm of being this sort of accelerationist, anti-natalist, wanting to get rid of human population in general. But a lot of these feminists, like you said, with abortion and with the moving away from the nuclear family and seeing family and motherhood as oppressive in and of itself,
Women's
that's an antinatalist
liberation,
position.
yeah, women's liberation could not have existed without their ability to snuff out their own children. Either it's via birth control or other mechanisms. The women's liberation always hinged on the fact that they had control over reproductive health and not men, or what they call reproductive health, which just means your children in the womb.
Yeah. Is it just me, or does this chick look like she's one of those people who's like a park ranger or something, who's going to drive a little golf buggy around and come and like check on the health of the trees or something like that?
I can at least say
consistent.
that. It is logically consistent, yes.
That have commented on it, like Christine Overall, she believes that antinatalism is, bad for women, whereas, somebody like Patricia McCormack would.
She just really strikes me as somebody who works in some sort of herbal life in a national park or something and takes her job really way too seriously. But anyways, I'll carry on.
Totally disagree.
I don't see her having an outdoor walking around kind of job at all, Jake. I'm sorry.
So I think there's a great deal academically, socially, that needs to be further investigated.
So that's the antinatalist. Any parting thoughts about her?
Yeah, well, the thing is that women like this, anti-natalists in general, they are, by their own admission, a threat to humanity, right? Her admission, really, what she's saying here to the world, is that she wants to eliminate all life on planet Earth. Now, how could it be that Jeffrey Dahmer would go and kill women, right, and eat them, or I'm sorry, men and eat them, right? And these serial killers can do these horrible things where they butcher up people, and even they are not psychotic enough to want to hatch a plan to end the existence of all life on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And yet these people do. They are pointing out that they are an existential threat to humanity by their own admission. Their entire stated goal is to wipe out all of humanity and all animals and all life, period. So it's not just that they shouldn't be taken seriously. They should be called what they are: psychotic lunatics. Only a psychotic lunatic would want to end all life. Well, you would have to be a psychotic lunatic, right?
Yeah, it is interesting, though, when you look at it through the materialist paradigm, though, when they use suffering as such a metric, that it does eventually become logically consistent for you to actually take that position. And it's almost like the logical conclusion of the materialist worldview is being psychotic.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like logical consistency in and of itself only works if the supposition is granted to you, right? So the second I suppose a different worldview than she does, and we have a different supposition, her entire worldview falls apart, right? And she might even have to agree with mine more than hers based on the evidence that's presented. So logical consistency itself isn't everything. And that's why utilitarians would just eviscerate this chick. Like they would say, no, we can create more positive experiences for people than negative experiences for people. And if we can do that, then life's worth having. And we can always do that, right? So most people actually try to keep in check the psychotic atheist tendencies towards elimination of all life on planet Earth. But occasionally, one of them gets through, don't they?
Yeah.